Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're really jumping into something pretty big, a massive digital community project. We're focusing on a specific piece, quite promotional actually, but packed with detail. It's urging users to HODL Pi, and we'll also look closely at a community marketplace that's popped up around it.
That's right. The main thing we're looking at is an article titled HODL Pi. It's from a platform called PiBazar.
Mhm.
And what's interesting is it gives us both the big vision rhetoric from the core team, but also some very concrete real-world examples of what the community is actually building and using within the Pi network ecosystem, like right now.
Yeah, so our mission for you, the listener, is really to get into the weeds here. We need to pull apart the structure of the Pi Network project itself. We need to look hard at the arguments, which are, well, very persuasive, very emotional, trying to get people to hold the asset. And then we need to really check out the scope of this ecosystem utility. Like, what exactly is this community building? What are they trading? And maybe, why are they so convinced this is the next big thing?
Okay, so let's start right at the beginning. We need to set the stage. What is Pi network? Well, fundamentally, it's a blockchain-based cryptocurrency project. It's been around since 2019, launched by, and this is key, a team of PhD students from Stanford University.
Right, that Stanford connection, that comes up a lot, doesn't it? It sort of anchors the whole thing in this institutional credibility. It definitely feels like a way to push back against the usual skepticism in the crypto world.
Absolutely. It's a strong part of their narrative. And the main goal, you see this repeated everywhere in the material, wasn't really about competing with Bitcoin on, like, processing power. It was about accessibility. Making crypto mining, or maybe earning is a better word, super simple for anyone, anywhere, using just their phone.
And simple is really the key word here, isn't it? When they say mining for Pi, you have to forget all those images of, huge warehouses full of computers burning energy.
Exactly. The whole mechanism is built for your average smartphone user. It's not proof of work, like Bitcoin, which needs tons of power and special hardware, GPUs and stuff. Instead, how you start earning Pi is, well, it's incredibly low effort. You open the mobile app, press a button, and you do that once every 24 hours. That's it.
That feels like the most critical piece to understand. The source material constantly describes it as free and crucially energy efficient.
Yeah, and that super low barrier to entry, that's kind of the genius of their growth model, right?
Yeah.
It takes away all the usual technical and financial hurdles. It makes joining in feel more like a simple daily habit, like checking your email. So the network grows based on social connections and community, not because people sunk thousands into hardware. The flip side, of course, is that because it's so easy, they need really strong ways to check identities, to stop people or bots from just creating tons of fake accounts and messing up the system. Which leads us nicely into how you actually participate.
Okay, yeah, let's unpack that. Because mining might be simple, but getting into the network isn't just a free-for-all. There are specific steps, and they tell you a lot about how the project is trying to grow in a, well, structured way.
Right. The first basic step is you need to download the mobile app. But you can't just start. You need an invitation or a referral code. The source we're looking at, written by someone clearly active in the community, even give their own code as an example. JWK.biz. This isn't just incidental, it's fundamental to how they spread.
It's almost like a built-in, decentralized marketing team. The source really hits this point hard. The referral system is key for expanding the network. It's a core part of how you participate. If you use someone's guide when you sign up, you immediately get a 25% boost in your mining speed. Is that right?
That's exactly it, a 25% increase. It's a really powerful incentive baked right in to get people to bring their friends and family on board. Your earning rate is directly linked to how successful you are at growing your own little network within the bigger one. It's all built on these layers of social connection and, importantly, identity. Which brings us to that administrative hurdle you mentioned.
Ah, yes, the verification part. This is where it gets a bit more serious, where you have to prove they don't just want anonymous accounts racking up coins for free.
Correct. And the source material is very direct about this. There's a critical warning about registration and verification. Because after you've done 30 mining sessions, basically, press that button for 30 days, you hit a checkpoint. You have to complete KYC.
And just to be super clear for everyone listening, KYC means know your customer. It's a standard thing in finance. Banks use it, exchanges use it. It's about verifying who someone is.
Exactly. Thanks for clarifying. And for Pi, needing KYC isn't just some bureaucratic step. It's almost existential. Think about it. If anyone can create coins just by pressing a button, You absolutely have to stop what are called Sybil attacks, where one person makes hundreds or thousands of fake accounts to grab as many coins as possible.
Right, so the KYC acts like this big digital gatekeeper. It ties all the coin accumulation back to one real verified person.
Precisely. And here's the bit the source really hammers home. There's a critical warning. When you first sign up, you absolutely must enter your real name. This isn't like a friendly suggestion. It's a hard rule, and it comes with some pretty serious consequences if you get it wrong.
A consequence that sounds pretty strict, actually, especially for a project still finding its feet. What happens if you mess it up? A typo, maybe use a nickname?
If you register incorrectly, the penalty is significant. The source states a 20% penalty. That means you lose 20% of all the pie you've accumulated up to that point.
Wow, 20%. That's harsh. It says a lot about how they're managing things, doesn't it? How serious they are about verified identity right from the get-go.
It really does. It basically sends a message. We care more about accuracy and compliance than we do about you just stacking coins quickly. It also signals they're thinking ahead, maybe towards future regulations that will definitely require knowing who users are.
It definitely reinforces that picture of a project that's trying to be structured, maybe even centrally managed in some ways, even while aiming for this massive decentralized adoption. Okay, so with these rules in place, where is the project actually at right now in its journey? We hear about millions of users, but what's the current status?
Well, the biggest update mentioned in our source materials is that the project is currently in the process of launching its mainnet. This is a huge step for any crypto project. It's the transition from like a testing phase to a fully live operational blockchain that can actually handle real transactions and applications.
And the main goal of launching this mainnet, at least according to the promotional source we're looking at, is all about enhancing the value of Pi. It's not just flipping a switch. It's about building a real economy.
Exactly. The idea is to boost the value of Pi coins by letting users actually build and use web applications, Web3 apps, they call them, directly on the Pi platform. This is the really crucial pivot point, moving from just being a simple mining app to becoming a whole ecosystem with actual uses. They're trying to build that utility before the coin hits the wider market and finds a stable price.
That focus on value suggests they're very aware of how people outside the community see them. The source material even mentions specific market signals they seem to be watching closely.
Oh, definitely. They're keeping an eye on the outside world. The sources mentioned tracking the live trading volume, PIUSDT, on gate.io. Now, that's likely IOUs or futures, not the real coin yet, but it shows they're watching exchange activity. They also talk about analyzing Pi balances held on exchanges and KYC funds. That sounds like they're constantly monitoring how much Pi might be ready to be sold, this sort of liquid supply.
And there was that one really specific technical detail, something about LBank and KYB. Know your business.
Ah, yeah, KYB know your business. That's like KYC, but for organizations. Think exchanges, companies, developers who want to build on Pi. Mentioning that LBank, which is a known crypto exchange, has been added to some kind of KYB list within the Pi network, well, that suggests they're preparing the ground. They're setting up verification for larger entities, maybe getting ready for smoother integration when the network fully opens up. It points towards a long-term plan that includes working with established players and thinking about regulation, even with that decentralized dream.
Okay, that makes sense. So let's shift gears a bit from the technical side to the more immediate practical stuff. This utility layer the community is building, this is where the abstract idea of Pi coins starts to meet the real world, right? Especially through this platform, PiBazar.
Exactly. This is where you can almost touch the vision. PiBazar pitches itself very clearly as the first community bazaar in Europe. Its purpose is pretty straightforward. Let pioneers, the users, trade actual products and services with each other, using their Pi coins directly as money.
So it's the community just doing it, creating value through direct trades, peer-to-peer, like a little grassroots economic experiment.
It really is. And to understand just how ambitious this experiment is, we need to actually look at the types of things being listed for sale on this PiBazar. It's not just, small trinkets. They're aiming for a whole internal autonomy that could cover pretty much everything you need day to day. The categories listed really show the community's vision for Pi being used for real stuff.
Okay, let's go through them. It starts pretty high-end, things that need a lot of trust, a lot of value. They list automoto, so cars and motorbikes.
Yeah, just think about that for a second. Buying or selling a car using Pi on a community platform. That's a huge commitment. It implies a very high value for Pi, at least within that community. If someone's willing to trade a motorbike for Pi, then for them, Pi is a successful currency already, right?
Definitely sets a benchmark. Then it moves into more everyday but still significant items for the home and hobbies. Deems errata sport, which translates to home, garden, and sport goods. So appliances, maybe furniture, tools, bikes.
And it goes right down to the small stuff, too. Regular things people buy, like detské hrejsi children's toys. That shows they see Pi being used for frequent, smaller, family-type purchases, not just big-ticket items.
Electronics is always a huge category online. Electro PC mobily.
Mhm.
Electronics, computers, mobile phones. But you mentioned something interesting here, the level of detail.
Yeah, this is where you see how granular they're getting. It's not just mobiles. They have subcategories like, let me see, oboli, pustra, grititi, folina mobi. That's covers, cases, screen protectors, and foils for mobile phones. We're talking about tiny, cheap accessories. If you can use your Pi to buy a, I don't know, $10 phone case, that's achieving a kind of everyday utility that goes way beyond just speculating on price.
It really grounds it. Okay, what else? We see personal items and basics, cosmetica drogerie, cosmetics, drugstore items. And this one seems really important. Služby pras at Parad. That's services, work, and similar things.
Yes, including services is absolutely key. It means they're not just thinking about physical stuff changing hands. They envision people using Pi to pay for maybe graphic design work or plumbing repairs or language lessons. It shifts Pi from just being stuff you hold to being a way to exchange actual human time and skills.
And they're not avoiding higher value or even regulated stuff either. You see areki hodinki tenasti, jewelry, watches, valuables listed, and basic necessities like oblacini, clothing.
And then, perhaps most surprisingly, there's the inclusion of categories that are typically age-restricted.
Yeah.
Alcohol, cigarette, 18 plus mine. Alcohol, cigarettes, 18 plus content. Putting those alongside a general catch-all estatni other category, it signals they're trying to build a complete marketplace. They seem to be planning for almost any kind of peer-to-peer trade, acknowledging what happens in real-world bartering or informal economies.
So PiBazar isn't just like an eBay for Pi users. It sounds like it's also trying to be an information hub, maybe reinforce the ideology.
Yeah, there's definitely an educational component. The platform hosts something called Pi Academy. Pi Academy, it offers articles, but also audio and video summaries. This shows they're really invested in teaching the community, not just how to use the platform, but about the whole Pi philosophy, its potential, and probably reinforcing why they should keep holding on to their coins, that HODL idea. It's like a self-contained infosphere.
And naturally, for any modern movement, especially a global digital one, being connected is vital. The Bazaar lists a whole bunch of social media links, right?
Oh yeah, it's expensive. Discord, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, Spotify, X, formerly Twitter, even Bluesky. They're making sure the community can find each other and the project information pretty much everywhere people hang out online.
Right. And it's probably this level of visible, tangible effort, building this whole marketplace infrastructure while the main network is still technically launching, that makes that core HODL Pi argument feel so convincing to people inside the community.
Exactly. It sets the stage perfectly for the main event, the big promotional pitch we found in that source article.
Okay, let's really break down this central argument, the 5 pillars of HODL Pi, as the article seems to frame it. The whole thing is presented through the lens of Dr. Nicholas Kakalis's vision, the founder, and the message is just relentless. Pioneers should hold their Pi, never sell. In fact, buy more and hold Pi. It reads less like advice and more like a manifesto.
It definitely is. It's a very deliberate, very structured piece of marketing, really. Designed to build confidence, play on that fear of missing out FOMO that's so common in crypto.
Okay, pillar number 1. It focuses on the market itself. Scarcity is real. The argument is basically, time's running out to get Pi easily, and this supposed scarcity is a sign that a massive increase in value is coming soon.
And they try to back this up with a specific number, although we need to be careful with it. They claim that Pi balances held on exchanges are under 500 million, and they explicitly call this super low.
Right, let's pause there. 500 million coins. That sounds like a lot. Why would they call that super low? In what context?
Well, it's all relative to the claimed size of the network, you see. If there really are over 35 million pioneers, as they claim, then 500 million coins potentially available for trading on external exchanges could be seen as a small fraction of the total potential demand. If that 500 million represents the easily sellable liquid supply, then yeah, compared to 35 million people who might want to buy or use it, it looks small. The argument is designed to create urgency. The available float is tiny, which fits perfectly with Dr. Kakalis's vision of Pi being this core, maybe deliberately constrained, asset in a huge global ecosystem.
So the implication is get yours now, because when the network fully opens and all these millions of pioneers want to start trading or using their Pi, the demand will swamp that small supply and the price has nowhere to go but up.
That's the narrative precisely. Hold on, don't sell, or you'll miss the inevitable rocket ride fueled by low supply and massive built-in demand.
Okay. Pillar number 2 tackles the project's health. The ecosystem is flourishing. This seems like a direct response to anyone saying the project is moving too slowly or doesn't have real substance. They flat out state, Pi's growth is unstoppable, and selling now is framed as basically being blind to the future of finance that they believe they're building.
And to make that concrete, they threw out a big, impressive-sounding number. They claim there's over $100 million in app development happening within the Pi ecosystem. That figure is meant to signal serious investment, serious developer belief in the platform.
And the story continues that this isn't just potential, it's happening now. Pioneers are already using Pi every day for goods and services all over the world. They tie the success back to the founders, Dr. Nicholas and Cheng Diaofan, portraying them as the steady hands guiding this ongoing development. It adds that academic weight again.
Right. Now, Pillar 3 is where it gets quite defensive, I'd say, and it relies heavily on comparisons, stability and chaos. Here, Pi is positioned as something special, something mature and stable, unlike the rest of the crazy crypto market.
Yeah, the source draws a really stark contrast. It says while big coins like Bitcoin and Ethereum are having wild fluctuations, which, let's be honest, they do, and meme coins can collapse with a tweet, Pi just stays stable.
But we have to push back on that a bit, don't we? If an asset is stable, especially one that isn't widely traded on major open markets yet, is it really a sign of mature stability, or is it maybe just a side effect of being in a relatively closed ecosystem? The mainnet isn't fully open. It's not facing the full force of global market speculation yet.
That's the critical question, isn't it? If most trading is happening peer-to-peer within the community, maybe using agreed-upon values or on very limited external platforms, it's naturally going to be less volatile than something like Bitcoin that's traded 247 on huge global exchanges. The stability might just be because it's not fully out there yet.
Exactly. But the promotional piece presents this lack of volatility as a core strength. And where does this supposed stability come from? According to them, it's the solid underlying blockchain, backed by, you guessed it, Stanford University. Then they pivot to history. History proves early holders win big. So the logic follows. Pi is stable, it has a strong foundation, history rewards holding, therefore holding Pi is the smartest choice to navigate the market's chaos.
It's a compelling story. Trust the academics, ignore the market noise, hold on for dear life, and you'll get rich. Okay, Pillar 4 shifts focus to the people, the power of community.
And the sheer scale is their trump card here, assuming the numbers are accurate. They state the community has more than 35 million members. And the argument is that a group this massive, all believing in the same thing, is basically unstoppable.
And they try to show this isn't just numbers on a screen, it translates to real-world activity. The source mentions the Pi Festival in South Asia as proof. Proof of utility, proof of global reach, proof that people are actually using Pi in person.
Yeah, that mention of a physical festival is important. It's just a real gathering. Thousands of people meeting up, maybe trading goods and services using Pi. It makes it feel like a genuine cultural movement, not just code. The narrative credits Dr. Kokalis with creating a movement, not just a coin. And the logic is powerful. If 35 million people decide something has value and start using it amongst themselves, maybe its value becomes real, regardless of what outside markets think initially.
Okay, and the final pillar, number 5, looks ahead. The future is bright. This is all about keeping people committed for the long haul.
Right. The Pi Network roadmap is described very enthusiastically. They literally say it's fire. They highlight upcoming milestones, like the full launch of the open network, which is the next big phase where the blockchain becomes more open and potentially connects to other chains or exchanges. They also mention fun stuff like fruity Pi games, probably to show there's more to the ecosystem than just serious finance. There's engagement and community activity too.
And then there's that classic crypto speculation hook. They talk about whispers of listings on major exchanges. That hints at future legitimacy, big money inflow, and, making it easy for everyone to buy and sell.
But the real punchline, the closing argument, is this incredibly dramatic historical comparison. Selling your Pi now, they say, is like selling BTC in 2010.
Wow. Okay, that comparison is doing a lot of heavy lifting. Selling Pi now is like selling Bitcoin when it was practically worthless. We have to question that analogy, right? What's the fundamental difference between how you got Bitcoin back in 2010 and how you get Pi now? That seems crucial.
It's massively different. Getting Bitcoin in 2010 required actual effort and resources. You needed to run mining software, which used significant electricity, required some technical know-how. There was a real cost, a barrier to entry. Pi, as we've discussed, is acquired by pressing a button on your phone once a day. The cost of acquisition is virtually zero minimal effort, no direct financial cost beyond owning a smartphone, and maybe a tiny bit of data.
So the risk-reward calculation for the holder is completely different. Selling something you got almost for free doesn't feel the same as selling something you actually invested time, energy, and maybe money into mining. Warning people they're missing out on generational wealth, but comparing Pi to early Bitcoin, it kind of ignores that huge difference in how the asset was acquired in the first place.
Precisely. It's an incredibly effective, emotionally charged closing statement designed to stop people from selling. But the analogy itself, while powerful, overlooks fundamental economic differences between the two scenarios. It's a pure FOMO play, warning you not to make a historic mistake.
Okay, before we wrap up, it's important to look at some of the other context bits mentioned in the source material. They hinted at related articles that maybe paint a slightly broader picture.
Yes, that's right. The source itself points to other discussions happening around Pi, which shows the conversation isn't maybe all just hype. For instance, one related article apparently defends the project against criticism about its slow progress.
That's interesting. So the community, or at least parts of it, are aware that people outside think it's taking too long, and they have justifications for that, maybe focusing on the challenges of managing such a huge user base and the KYC process.
Seems likely. Another piece mentioned discusses price predictions, which is always a hot topic. It noted a potential recovery target maybe for Pi IOUs or futures of around 50 cents or $0.32 USD. Now, that's still pure speculation, of course, but it's a much more grounded number than the moon rhetoric. It brings the value conversation down to earth a bit, closer to where some market watchers might see it.
And there was that intriguing one. Activity of the Pi network is skyrocketing. A mysterious wallet is gaining millions in PI coins. That adds a bit of mystery, doesn't it? Hints at maybe large holders, whales, or even institutions quietly accumulating Pi behind the scenes, perhaps anticipating that open network launch.
Yeah, all these related bits together paint a picture of a project that's very much in motion, active inside, super ambitious, getting fluff for its timeline, but also keeping a close eye on market signals and managing expectations maybe for what comes next.
So we've talked about all this complexity, the governance, the high stakes with KYC penalties, the massive community, the detailed marketplace, the intense HODL arguments. But let's just quickly circle back to the absolute core of how someone gets involved. It's still fundamentally simple, right?
Absolutely. Despite everything else layered on top, the entry point remains unchanged. As the source reminds us, you can start mining today. You download the free app, it's energy efficient, and you just hit that button once every 24 hours. That ultra-low barrier is still the defining feature of its adoption strategy. It's what makes it potentially global and accessible in a way few other crypto projects have managed.
Okay. Now, as we come towards the end of this deep dive, especially having looked at such promotional material, we absolutely must cover the disclaimers. The source material itself includes them, and it's crucial for you, the listener, to keep these in mind.
Yes, absolutely essential. The source material includes a very clear, very standard warning, and we need to echo it strongly. Investing in cryptocurrencies is high risk. Prices slush away wildly, and you can lose money, significant amounts of money.
And let us be perfectly clear. Everything we've discussed today, based on that source material, is for informational purposes only. It is not investment advice. Not from the source, and certainly not from us. You absolutely have to do your own research, understand the risks involved in any crypto project, including this one, and make your own financial decisions very carefully.
And one more point on transparency from the source itself. It discloses that the platform where the article was published, PiBazar, might feature sponsored content or affiliate links. They state these are marked and that advertisers don't influence their editorial content. But it's important context to know there might be commercial relationships behind some of the information presented.
Right. Well, this has certainly been a comprehensive look into what feels like a very driven, very large-scale community project.
Yeah, we've really covered a lot of ground. From that super simple mining process to the sheer size and the rules governing that 35 million plus community, we looked at the nitty-gritty of the PiBazar in Europe, phone cases to cars, quite the range. And we dissected those 5 key arguments driving the H2L Pi message: scarcity, the growing ecosystem, that claim of stability, the power of the crowd, and that very potent Bitcoin comparison.
So let's leave you with a final thought to chew on, something that tries to connect the two extremes we've seen today. On one hand, you have this massive vision, this goal of Pi being used for everyday transactions globally, this huge community, these comparisons to the biggest names in crypto. But on the other hand, how do you actually get Pi?
Right. Comes back to that core simplicity, that single free button press once a day. So the question is, how does that near zero effort acquisition model ultimately affect the economic behavior of potentially 35 million people? Does getting something so easily make people value it less in the long run, leading them to sell quickly once they can? Or is the sheer size and shared belief of that massive community enough to create real lasting value, overcoming that initial lack of friction? Can something acquired so effortlessly truly become stable and valuable, especially when the hype promises so much? That's the fundamental puzzle, isn't it? The core tension in the Pi network's grand experiment in mass crypto adoption.